I'm Justin with VMP Performance, and behind me I have my 2012 Shelby GT500. This car has 82,000 miles on it. I bought it from a gentleman in Cocoa Beach, Florida that daily drove the car. It's got a couple little minor issues cosmetically. It seems to be very, very solid mechanically. We did put a new clutch in it to handle the power that we're going to try and make. Ford claims this car makes about 550 crank horsepower, which is around 470 at the wheels. We are going to try and make over 800 rear wheel horsepower with our new VMP Gen3 supercharger. We want to show the power with the stock supercharger, the VMP Gen2R, and then the VMP Gen3. We're going to go hop on the dyno and make some baseline pulls.
It made 487 rear wheel horsepower and 443 rear wheel torque. So if you figure Ford rates this car for 540, I believe, at the crank. We'll do some math on a drivetrain loss. 15%, if you want to be generous, drivetrain loss works out to be 459 rear wheel horsepower. We're making 487. You know, that's about right. Ford underrates these cars from the factory. We know if we worked this stock blower over, we'd get 550 to 560 rear wheel horsepower. And when I say work it over, I mean a pulley, a tune, a full cold air kit, and for an extra 15 to 20 rear wheel horsepower, you can do a throttle body. But that still would only get us 550, 560 at the very most. So we're just going to skip straight to the VMP Gen2R blower. We're going to use the 800 horsepower package because it comes with some of those things I mentioned, like the cold air, the throttle body. It also comes with injectors and plugs, and that's going to set us up with a nice package that's going to have everything we need to make a much bigger number. We loaded with the VMP Gen2R 800 horsepower kit. The rev limiter is a little bit higher, 6,500 RPM instead of 6,250. We made 658 rear wheel horsepower. We're ready for the Gen 3 swap at this point. Donnie just swapped on the Gen 3 and he says, let's make 1,000. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not ready for that yet, Donnie. All right, we got our data logger going. We're connected to the dyno. We've got boost, and we are going to make the first pull with the VMP Gen 3 on an otherwise stock GT500. .661 rear wheel horsepower and 595 rear wheel torque. With 6 pulley sizes larger, we made the same power as the Gen2R. And let me check our tune. Yep, all of our tuning parameters looked good. Fuel, spark, everything looks good. It was the same as the last run. And we made a ton of power without even trying, and now we're going to go to the smaller pulleys. All right, here we go again. We just swapped the 2.8-inch pulley onto the Gen 3. We had a 3-inch pulley on before. We're swapping on the 2.8-inch pulley, and we're gonna log boost, we're gonna log the computer, and see how she does. So that 2.8 pulley got boost back to about the same place as we were with the Gen2R. We're making an extra 30 rear wheel horsepower and an extra 45 rear wheel torque. And we haven't touched the cowl, we have not touched the fuel in the tank. We're still on 93 from the station down the street, and this car has totally stock exhaust. Oh, did I mention we're still on the twin 67mm throttle body. Donnie just swapped on a 2.6 inch pulley, and we are going to fire this thing up and run it. Now, here's the thing about the 2.6 inch pulley swap. Our boost is going to go up, and we're going to start to find other limits. We're probably going to find the limit of the throttle body. We may start to push up against the limit of pump gas. We'll need to see what the data looks like and make that determination after the run. But regardless, if we continue on this current trend, we're going to pick up more power. We picked up some power. It made 695 rear wheel horsepower and 640 rear wheel torque. We are knocking on the door of the 700s at the tire. You know, however, I feel the gains are starting to taper off a little bit. I think we may be running into a throttle body restriction. I want to try swapping on the VMP 160mm throttle body that's specifically made for the Gen 3 and see what it does. At the same time, we're going to go up in pulley size just to make sure we didn't miss any gains from having that smaller twin jet 67 throttle body on the car. So my feeling was correct. The car made more power with the VMP 160 with a larger pulley. We basically made the same power with the 3-inch pulley and the 160 as we would have going a couple pulley sizes down. I'm really excited now that we've got the big VMP 160mm monoblade throttle body on the car, and we're starting to pulley down. We're going to start to see some really big horsepower numbers. We should crack 700 pretty easily on this pull, and then we're going to reassess, see where everything is, and possibly go to an even smaller pulley. So we just made a dyno pull with a 2.8 pulley. We previously had a 3.0 inch pulley on there. We've got the VMP 160mm throttle body. We've got the fuel pump boosters, and we just picked up 23 rear wheel horsepower and about 37 rear wheel torque from a pulley change. The gains in the mid-range are very good. The data looks good. I watched measured air fuel all through the pull. It held 0.81, 0.80, 0.79, which is around 11:4 to 1 if you're working in air fuel ratios. So the booster is doing its job. Everything looks really good. We just broke 700 rear wheel horsepower. We're going to keep on going. Next up, we're going to swap on a 2.6 pulley. We just made 721 rear wheel horsepower and 659 rear wheel torque. The data looks really good. The curve is smooth. Boost comes up and hits about 20 pounds at 5,000 RPMs. It does spike a little bit above 6,000 because of the stock exhaust. I'm looking at the tune right now and everything looks good. The fuel is holding. Car only has about 14.5, 15 degrees of timing in it. As we go up in boost, we actually have to run a little bit less timing, and the tables are set up to take that into account. As
calculated load, or VE, goes up, the timing curve goes down because the cylinder pressure is higher. The boost is higher, cylinder pressure is higher, and you just can't tolerate as much timing. Now, once we go to race gas, that situation changes considerably. We've got race gas in the tank. We've got a tune loaded specifically for the race gas. We're gonna run it and see what it makes. We just made our final dyno pull with the VMP Gen3 blower. The car made 802 rear wheel horsepower and 758 rear wheel torque. Now, keep in mind, these numbers are uncorrected. What that means is this is what the car was making at this very moment with these conditions. There exist correction factors to standardize numbers across dynos everywhere in any conditions. If we look at the SAE correction factor, the car's making 767 rear wheel horsepower. If we look at the STD correction factor, the car's making 790 rear wheel horsepower. You can take the numbers however you like, but what we know is the car made 300 rear wheel horsepower more than stock, 100 rear wheel horsepower more than the Gen2R, and we haven't even begun to touch anything else on the car. The lower pulley is still stock, the exhaust is still stock, from the manifolds to the cats to the mufflers. We still have 2 pulley sizes left on the supercharger. We're only running a 2.6 upper pulley. We're running a 160 millimeter throttle body, and we are running race gas. We're really happy with the numbers that we're seeing from this car, but we've just touched the tip of the iceberg. We'd like to hear from you what supporting mods you'd like to see next to make even more power. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to see more great content like this.